Welcome to the Sisterhood Collective podcast, where we empower women to break barriers, overcome limiting beliefs, and achieve true success. I'm your host, Laurie Drummond, entrepreneur and founder of 5 successful businesses. Join me as I share proven strategies, interview inspirational leaders, and provide behind-the-scenes insights to help you level up in your business, career, and in life. Because together, we can get further faster. Okay, let's dive in. I wanted to share what I'm going through on the days that I don't really want to show up, but I show up anyway. And even choosing, for example, these topics for the podcast, sometimes I'm just, no, not this topic today, because I'm not feeling it. But it still has to be something because I have to stick to my schedule. People are relying on me, the listeners, the team, and even myself. So when these life challenges are thrown at us, of course, these come in so many forms, from sickness to grief to financial troubles, the conflict impacting our loved ones overseas, societal pressures. It creates this mental and emotional chaos. It creates anxiety and a complete lack of drive for me, which I feel we will all experience differently. But here's the thing, why? Why is it that we will show up for others at any time? Anytime someone asks me, I am there. But why don't we do that for ourselves? So today I want to dive a little deeper into this and share with you what I've done in the past, because I'm still learning to navigate through my life journey, as I imagine you are. So how do we show up when life is hard? For me, it's the power of resilience. Resilience for me is like the sturdy anchor. It keeps me grounded. It's funny actually, because I've got into these oracle cards more recently whilst I was in Bali. And the very first day I get these cards and I'm with Tegan in Bali and I pull a card and it's turbulent storms. Anyway, I read it and I'm like, oh gosh, what's coming? And then I had to obviously analyze it and all those things. Tegan pops over about 15 minutes later and I shuffle the cards. I'm like, what does Tegan need to know? I'm like, Tegan, choose a card. She gets the same one, which we couldn't believe. Could not believe it. By the way, it happened again about a week later. It's really random, but obviously not so random. There's a message there. Anyway, the key there is finding the resilience in turmoil, in these stormy waters. And I always think like it's not about avoiding the storms, but more learning to dance in the rain. So when we are faced with life's challenges, the hard days, adversity, even uncertainty, I feel like for me, resilience is one of my superpowers, and it can be yours as well. But this is why I've worked really hard on this, from my army days to working in the Middle East for many years, to running several businesses and juggling them all at once, to having multiple staff and managing them and having multiple business partners. It's giving me the ability to be able to bounce back whenever I need to adapt, but also to allow me to keep moving forward even when that path is challenging, which to be fair is quite often, but I kind of embrace it and I like it. And we all have them. It's not just me. So even when I've had the big setbacks and, from personally and professionally in business, it's the resilience that's kept me together, which, like I said, we've all been through it at some point. And, what comes to me right now is when we had the pandemic a few years ago, there was so much uncertainty at that time for all of us. It was like we were swimming in this ocean, but you had no idea how deep the water was. We couldn't see the bottom, and you most certainly couldn't see land, right? We didn't know how long it was going to last, what the outcome was going to be from a health perspective, from a world perspective. But at the time, I had my gym, Ultra, which was a 7-year-old business at the time. And I knew the restrictions were coming because I was watching it happen overseas. And I had mentees in the US and in Europe at the time, and they were already being forced to close their businesses. So I knew it was coming. At the time here in Australia, in Brisbane, we were still just carrying on like, nothing had happened, but we could see stuff going on overseas. But I do remember warning my staff, and I emailed them through this action plan. If it was going to happen to us, then this is what we're going to do. And at the time, they thought I was literally overthinking everything and probably a little bit crazy. which they'd probably seen before as well. But sure enough, a week later, it happened. But we were ready, at least the best that we could be. And it most certainly wasn't easy. It wasn't easy personally. It wasn't easy professionally for all of us. Like, it was a massive test of resilience. We couldn't be with our loved ones. We couldn't see, our people. We couldn't go outside. We couldn't run our businesses the way that we always had. Couldn't train, look after our mental health, shop, get food, and I was not even a little bit interested in quitting or even giving up. Was I tired during that time? Yes. Was I over it? Yes. Did I want to not show up for everyone else? Yes. But I had to. So I kind of embraced resilience. I focused on what I could control. I shifted my mindset from, the obstacles, and I started to strategize solutions, which is, something I absolutely love to do. It wasn't about having all the answers at the time, but having the resilience to find them along the way. And that's something that I was really teaching, I guess the people around me at that time, without using the word resilience. And I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all concept. It's very personal, because it's about finding your inner strength, which, comes from your own experiences and background. And it's having the belief that even on the hardest days, you have the capacity to keep moving forward, to get out of bed. And it's in, I guess, recognizing too those small victories, the moments of perseverance in the commitment. Like, I had gym members that were relying on me to keep them, healthy and fit during this time, and giving them purpose each day. I had staff members that were relying on me for a job, for income, and also guidance and leadership, to be honest. So having the commitment and being able to keep showing up, having this resilience to do that, not everybody has that, is what I've recognized. And I think that's what separates so many people. Those that have it are the ones that will keep moving forward and trajecting, higher and higher and further, whatever that looks like for them. But I also am not so sure that we all have it all the time, because I feel like for me, it comes in these blocks, in a bit of a cycle. Maybe I have all this gusto and this energy for like a few weeks or a few months at a time. But then there's those few days that I don't have anything at all. And when those days kind of come, I think that's when there's these other life strategies that need to come into play. And this is why they're so important. So some of the practical strategies, I guess, for showing up for me on those tough days, those days that I have no motivation, I'm close to burnout, I'm not feeling well, I've had some loss that I'm working through, or I just feel plain unmotivated. And I say those few things right there because I honestly believe I felt them certainly in the last kind of 4 months in the end of 2023. And my business partners could probably attest to all of those. But I have this simple yet powerful approach, which is just, and you're going to say, Loz, you're stating the obvious here, but it's focusing on what I can control. It's like this conscious shift in my perspective where I pivot from what I feel is overwhelming, and I most certainly have those days because I can tell you I overstack my calendar some days, to moving it to this perspective of it's manageable. And I can tell you right now, I still have these overwhelming days where I have stacked my schedule way too much. And every time I come to those days, I get through them. And so I'm starting to learn that you can handle this. You can handle those big, tough days. And so now I think I'm kind of doing these big, tough days a little bit more often in the beginning of the week, and then they sort of taper out a little bit. And that's just kind of what works for me. But I control that. I control what goes into my calendar. But anyway, so when I have these moments as well, the first thing that I do, and you're probably going to roll your eyes here a little bit too, is that I grab my pen and paper and I start writing down those things that are in my control for that day, because sometimes I don't need to project any further forward than that because I'm having those feelings and those emotions of overwhelm right this moment, right? So it's like, what can I control? What can't I control? And I've personally found that by putting it down in writing, I can bring a little bit more clarity to the chaos and work out what needs to be done, what doesn't need to be done, what's important, what's not important, what's urgent, what's not urgent. And then when I do that, I can actually see the tasks that I can tackle today. even if they're nice and small. I actually don't even mind that. They might not be huge, but they're small, and I have this sense of accomplishment. It makes me feel good, and I feel like I've had a little win for the day too. So it doesn't matter if it's small or a big task on those overwhelming days, but just something is good. So I always just kind of ask myself, what aspect of today can I shape to better align with my well-being in this time and space right this moment, right now, today? So this process, essentially like working it out on a piece of paper. I mean, some people may be a little bit more electronically savvy than me, but for me, it serves as a bit of a roadmap. And I always talk about mapping out your day or roadmaps all the time, because it navigates any sort of storm, turmoil, stress, craziness for me. It's not about having all the answers right now. It's about breaking them down and making them manageable for right now. It's the same way we do goals. Sometimes they're too big. Let's make them more manageable for right now. And so it's the same way that I deal with the hard days, the stressful days, the overwhelming days. And as I write, I'm not just writing a list of tasks. Sometimes, I can take it that step further and outline like the potential solutions, like or write down how I'm going to manage that particular issue. And then suddenly I've got this tangible plan of action. Now, depending on what you're going through at the time, this isn't going to work for everybody in the right now. But the beauty of this practice is that it brings an immediate shift in your mindset, because it's almost like you're flipping this switch. You start to see your thoughts on paper, and then you start to see the, motion of regaining control. You start to recognize that even in this overwhelming day, you still have a say in how you're going to tackle this problem, action it, or respond to it. You know what I mean? And here's the magic. I always find that the act of writing it down not only provides this clarity and focus for me, like I said, it sparks this positive shift in my emotional state, and it gives me this motivation. It's a small but very profound way of telling me I can handle this. I have the solutions, and today I'm going to navigate through it. Today, I'm just going to take one step at a time. I'm going to do one mentor call at the time. I'm going to do one bit of content creation at a time and get through it. Now, you might be thinking, Loza, that sounds like a little bit too much when you're having a really, really tough day. And I imagine it absolutely can be. And it is for me too, because I can't do that in a time of grief, for example. But it's not like I always do it in just that method. It is a very good method, though, if it's, you're living in a little bit of chaos and uncertainty or overwhelm at the moment, juggling so many balls. But there are days where it can just be simply me consciously asking myself, what can I control today? And to be honest, sometimes I'll call one of my close friends and I talk it out, particularly if it's to do with businesses. One of my really good friends here in Brizzy, she has always been someone I've looked up to. She's extremely successful and she is constantly evolving and changing, and she's quite magnetic and amazing, actually. But without fail, every time I discuss a drama or a problem in business, she always looks at it from a different perspective. She's an extremely good businesswoman, and she just looks at it from a different perspective, and she gives me this new insight. And sometimes that's just enough to motivate me to enact the change, or just plain old make stuff happen for that particular day, even if it is just small stuff. So, relying on a friend there has helped me. But other strategies I've implemented to help me through these days is creating a routine. And I think I've discovered I actually do like routine. It allows me to work at my optimum level for sure, which is something I've only recently discovered. I always thought, I love having the freedom and I love all this change. But in reality, I really do thrive on routine. But I like having my goals. I like having my daily, my weekly, my monthly, and my annual planning and goals done. And I also like knowing what my focus is going to be each day. So to do that, I actually have to plan. And the more organized I am with my time, well, then obviously that keeps me on point. I think time management's a whole nother discussion at another time. And it's a work in progress, because just when you think you've managed it and you've nailed it, something else comes at you. You start a new business, or you change countries, or you go on holidays, and it just gets flipped upside down. So it's important to also acknowledge your current mindset and your present space when you are having these hard days. And also understanding your why. And let me explain this, because this isn't about judgment, but it's about embracing your reality with compassion. It's understanding that it's okay not to be okay sometimes, because by acknowledging your current space, both physical and mindset, by the way, and emotional, you're giving yourself the permission to feel and validate your emotions. As well, I think understanding your why, this is the absolute 100% profound reason behind why you want to show up, even when it feels like the last thing you want to do. Because your why is your anchor. It's your driving force. And understanding it becomes a powerful source of motivation. Even when I choose these podcast topics, like I said earlier, sometimes I go to record, I'm like, I know I'm going to record this Saturday or whatever day it is, but I just don't feel like that topic. It's just not resonating with me. And the one that I had planned to do. So I switched direction. But the point is, I still do the podcast. I still do a video on the socials when Lauren wants me to, and when the social media calendar tells me I need to do these. Because my why is to share my story, to share my lessons, to help as many of you as possible out there that have similar feelings that I have and how I've overcome them and navigated them. And to also let you know that you're not alone. And I really want to connect women and people, actually. I want you to grow and live your best life. I want you to understand and know who your thriving version of yourself is and how do you get there? What does that look like? And let you also know that together, all of us have been in similar situations and we've come out the other side, and you can too. So how you get the wins that you're chasing? I want to share those. I want to ensure I don't let my partners down. I don't want to let my team down. I worked on Christmas Day this year and last year and the year before in my coffee shop. Why? Because, well, there's quite a few reasons actually, but I want my team to spend time with their family and to acknowledge that they have worked so hard for me throughout the year that has allowed me to travel the world and grow my other businesses. And I go there on Christmas Day, the most chaotic, hectic, exciting, thrilling day. I absolutely love the chaos of it. By the way, absolutely exhausted. And kudos to all the baristas out there that working in some hectic chaos cafes, because it's so fun. It is for me because it's still like one of my favorite hobbies. I kind of digress a little. There's a surprise. But I go there so they can spend time with their family. And so I also know what those crazy, chaotic, stressful days are like in the coffee shop. So I know how they're feeling, the stress, that fun that they're also going through, the emotions, the exhaustion. And so when I ask them to do the tough stuff in the future, I know probably what they can handle because I've kind of done the same as them. But also I get to hang with the locals. It's on the coast. I'm right next to the beach. My friend's upstairs. I make the tough day that I know it's going to be fun. And we're organized for those things. Going back to your why, you need to understand, I guess, what the deeper purpose behind your actions are. Like, is this for personal growth? Like, whatever your main goal is, why do you need to show up today? Well, is it for personal growth? Is it the well-being of your loved ones? Or in my case, just as I explained, it was for my team. Or is it a larger goal that you're working towards? And I think like connecting your why adds this layer of meaning to your efforts. And it transforms this, it's that motivation, and it transforms showing up from just a task and a have to and a chore to a purposeful, I guess, journey or action. I'm just going to go back to during my gym days. My why was rooted in this belief that health and fitness contributes not just to physical well-being, but also to mental health and mental resilience, right? So knowing this was my driving force during the pandemic. I could connect the dots between the daily grind and the purpose and the need that my clients felt at the time. And to be fair, I think I needed it too. you need to be able to navigate your emotions and, understand your why. It's like aligning this compass of your actions. I always say that your purpose, you need to find your North Star, which is, and understand your values and your purpose, right? It's the compass of your actions with your true north. And this alignment provides clarity in moments of the confusion, the chaos, the overwhelm, right? That's, again, why you need to know your values and your purpose, or your why. It fuels this sense of purpose, even on these darkest days and these hard days. And I think having a purpose is important, but I think that's, again, a conversation for another day, because otherwise I'll be here for a few days talking. So other strategies I've put into place to help get me through these tough days and allow me to just still show up even when I don't want to, is having this support system in place. And many of you, if you've listened to any of my podcasts before, or, followed me on socials, or you just know me, my people is probably one of the most important things in my world. And earlier I mentioned my friend that I talk to. Generally, when it's to do with business or contracts, she always helps me see through a different looking glass, and it generally is quite creative. Her solutions are that I can implement, and I just always learn something. So I absolutely love it. But I also have my sisterhood girls, like when I'm about to go on stage in France just recently to do a talk to these women, and I chat to Lauren, and she gives me this little encouraging talk about how amazing I'm going to be on stage because I can talk underwater and that this is my passion and I know what I'm talking about, and whatever. Or even when I just want some girl time, like Lauren and Tegan and I have jumped on many Zoom calls on just a random Saturday night or even midweek. And we might have a champagne, we might have just a chat, or we might just need each other and just want to be there. Or one of us isn't having the best day and the other two just, we take it over. We take over the conversation. We take over the workload. We take over and just give that person support and love. I have this other friend who always invites me over for a delicious home cooked meal, fabulous wine. She knows some days I don't have the time to cook, and it means a lot to me, again, because quality time is important. And there's many other friends that are doing their thing, and they are all very supportive, and I hold them close even when they are so far away, like they all are. And of course, obviously there's family, because I don't want to not mention my family because they're amazing, but there's also my mentor who makes me accountable. She allows me to be vulnerable. She encourages me to dream big and makes me really understand my own beliefs, my own why. But all of these people, they're my rocks. They are part of my why. You need to surround yourself with these people. We can also talk self-care practices. If anyone's been following my journey, like I've said, this was something that always came naturally to me until it didn't. And until I started at times overcommitting, reaching out too far, pushing too hard. But as you all know, I recently went to Bali just a few months ago with Tegan, and it was here where I really slowed down. I was tired for sure, but I really, I guess, embraced the Balinese culture just this little bit. And I tried to be present. And although that's something I'm not the greatest at, I am definitely more aware of it and trying to get better. So I apologize if I've ever not been present around you. But I did acknowledge it, and I have brought back, when I came home, I brought back this new commitment to self-care. It's kind of obvious, I think, what self-care is. And to be fair, is so many things. But, we need to nourish ourselves, right? It makes us feel miles better both inside and out when we do it. We need to enjoy the journey. We need to move more. We need to have fun. We need to say no sometimes. Maybe you need to meditate more often, but that's when I came back and I said, hey girls, let's create a free morning mastery course, because I know from my own experiences how we are all struggling with time. Not only my own experiences, all the women I just spoke to in Bali were doing the same thing. But I also understand that with time, if you've got a really good morning routine, how much it benefits you, how productive you become. It makes you, well, for me personally, it works for me, and it prevents me from falling off the wagon. It makes me more productive, more efficient, and it keeps me in this routine. And well, as you know, if I'm not in routine, well, I lose my mojo. I'm not productive, and I'm not moving forward and thriving like I really, really want to. So So that's just important. Self-care, I think it's an obvious one. We don't always have the time for it, but for me, I've realized that it's important and I need to make it a priority in my life. And most certainly moving into 2024, it is going to be right at the top of my goals and focus. And I guess the last thing for me, how do I show up when it's hard, when it's tough? Well, I think it's adapting your goals to your current realities. But what I will say is this: I know that my work won't always be my best work on those days, that I'm just showing up and I'm probably feeling just that little bit flat. But we need to address those days by adapting our goals for the day or for the week based on how we are feeling and what our current present circumstances are. We need to stay flexible and we need to learn to adjust our expectations. I've had to do this on many, many occasions, and you should be doing this on all the time. I think you've got to adjust your expectations. I think that's part of evolving as a person. But not only for myself and my efforts, but also acknowledging that my business partners and my staff will have these tough days too. One of my business partners lost his dad unexpectedly last year, and 2 days later, he lost his mum, and he was absolutely crushed, as you can imagine. And he had to fly overseas to a country with limited phone reception, and he couldn't do his part in the business, and he just needed us to have his back. And then he fell sick and was hospitalized for weeks outside of our country as well. And there was just so much uncertainty at the time. And we were opening a new business at the time. We didn't have all the information that we needed to make things happen. Obviously, we worked it all out. We couldn't reach him. We had to go through a third party, but we had to adjust. We also had to adjust, the fact that maybe we weren't going to open when we thought we would. We had to adjust those expectations. And geez, we just wanted him home safe and well and enough to grieve, for the loss that he had just gone through. It wasn't about business and hitting all these deadlines and times and making stuff happen at that time. It was more about our business partner and being there for him at the time and picking up the pieces that we could in that time. So we do have to really acknowledge the circumstances and the current realities, not only for yourself, but your family, friends, and/or, staff members and business partners as well. That was a rough time for him. I don't wish that for anybody. But anyway, we'll move on from there. I guess this is why having a goal or a focus is important, so that when you're not feeling it, there's focus already planned for you and it's written. For me, it's in my office. It's big and it's on my whole cupboard walls, but it's big. So I'm constantly reminded of it. So when I have a spare moment, I'm looking at it. On Sundays when I'm planning out my week, or the night before when I'm planning out the day tomorrow, or when I'm planning out the month, it's always there for me. And there's some days I see these goals or these plans, I'm like, not today, Loza, not today. And that's okay. But we're all going to have these tough days, and sometimes for no damn reason. But it's through, I guess, resilience. It's through having a plan, goals, focus, through mindset, self-care, and our ability to adapt, and very much really knowing your why. Our reason, they are our reasons that we can still show up. And this is what I've been implementing to try to show up on my tough days. And it's really okay. In fact, it's important to just embrace the hardship, because sometimes you will need to do that, and just sit in it for a bit, just not for too long. How do you snap out of it and get back moving? Well, you implement those strategies. And maybe the strategies that you've used before, they're just not working. So you will need to try something different. Otherwise, you will always revert to the unsuccessful patterns that you've been doing previously. Know that there are ways to navigate this. Try something different. And remember that showing up isn't just a task, it's a purposeful journey. And you have the strength to navigate this. I'm telling you that. Write it down. Do this. Say this to yourself. And something else I always say is just try doing one thing that improves your life, even on that tough day, and makes it even 1% better than yesterday. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast today. If you have liked any of our podcasts, please give us a review. I'd love to see some more of those, or even give me some feedback on maybe what you would like me to talk about, or if you need help with anything, or you just want to have a chat. I am your girl for having a chat for sure. I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you for joining us on the Sisterhood Collective podcast. Remember to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. And if you want to be the first to hear what is new at Sisterhood Collective, you can find out more on our Instagram, or you can sign up to receive our weekly newsletter and let the good times continue to roll. Now it's time to turn your clear vision into bold action. I'm Laurie Drummond, your host, and until next time, keep striving to live that best life. Take care, and we'll see you soon.